let's look at the differences between macro learning and micro learning. Now here's a really good side-by-side comparison created by Josh Bersin. Macro learning is when you set aside time and you want to learn something completely new. It could take hours or days sometimes when you're digging deep into definitions, concepts, principles, and practicing them. Sometimes you're doing exercises, being graded on those exercises in a physical class or virtual class or some other type of program like that. Now, the most important thing in macro learning is that you have a teacher, an author, who's authoritative and educational. Now, micro learning, on the other hand, is a lot more informal in nature. Micro learning is not destination learning, but it's happening very much in the flow of your work. It's also usually very short, like a couple of minutes video or a tip sheet that's available right when you need it. Sometimes it's as simple as you asking a question somewhere and you're getting your answer just immediately. At the end of the day, micro learning is very much about getting help instead of getting trained. And that's very important in this case because you want that help and that content that you're getting help with to be very accurate, very useful to your need to get you going. You definitely need both macro learning and micro learning. Macro learning is usually at the start of a job. So when you're getting used to new processes, new systems, the pace of learning is extremely high at that time, and you get a jump start with that training, that event that happens. That macro learning is then followed by on the job micro learning, and that's, you're getting by, performing the actual processes, you're talking to coworkers, you're learning as you go, and that's all these micro learning events that are happening. Now, eventually that type of learning plateaus when you become more seasoned and kind of set in your ways and how you perform a job. At that point in time, you might take another advanced course or get a credential or certificate or designation that now you're a seasoned professional in that field. You want to get to the next thing, right? That's great when that happens, but what about after that? If you go from a seasoned professional to an expert, that depends on you. If you learn nothing after that point, after that macro event, after that credential, your knowledge and expertise might start declining, and you might never get to become that true expert that you want to be. But this is where the magic of continuous unstructured micro learning can take you to the next level of being great in your job and maybe even teaching others in your profession. Here's a good depiction of a study that's done by O'Reilly. It's perfect for understanding how you start with structured content, which is macro learning, and as you become more literate and then capable, and then you go into the expert arena, you rely much more on unstructured content and micro learning. This continuous micro learning never ends. So that's continuous throughout your lifetime, throughout your career. You get better and better by doing more on the job, learning from others, learning from your own experiences. I hope all this provides a good understanding of how macro learning and micro learning work together to help employees and organizations throughout their learning journeys.